We just arrived home from our vacation and we had a pile of boxes in the entryway, and I'm really excited about it because, as you recall on a previous video when we were out at Cat Harbor, our Windlass finally decided to give up the ghost. It quit, it's going off the boat, I'm done with it. I have rebuilt that thing a couple of times now and we got a little bit of life out of it, but it's done. I'm not gonna mess with it anymore. So before we left on our vacation, I ordered a new Lofrans Tigres, 1500 watt Tigres, and I can't wait to get it on the boat. We're going to be pulling the old one off, filling some deck holes, and then remounting this one. Hopefully it's not going to be too big of a project. I suspect that it probably will be, but I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to take you along for me and try and show you everything that we do to get this thing on the boat. In addition to the Windlass, I also ordered the remote chain counter and Windlass control. So that's going to be a really nice addition as well. I'm looking forward to that. We've got all the supplies that we need. We've got the cups, mixing cups. We've got some total boat epoxy as well as some thickener, and we're going to go get this done. So let's go take care of a few projects on aeronautical. As we mentioned, that Windlass is no bueno. So it's going in the dumpster. Our task for the day is to get it off the boat. And we're gonna have to fill all the deck holes because the new Windlass is not gonna go in the same spot. So time to get down in the anchor locker and start unbolting things. Cake. Old one's gone. Now I've got to clean up the deck. Oddly enough, this one does have epoxy here. It's like some kind of silicone maybe. This one is raw. There's nothing protecting the wood core. But I'm fortunate that it doesn't feel soft at all. Anyway, now I just have to clean this up, get all the silicone off, clean up these holes, and then we'll start filling them with epoxy. That's pretty well cleaned up. So now I just got to fill them. So while I'm up on deck taking care of the Windlass install, I had our mechanic here installing the new alternator, the new Balmer alternator with the serpentine kit. That's all done. The voltage regulator is mounted right there next to the servo and the MPPT. So it's in a very easily accessible location. Should be a big improvement. That is the last of the electrical upgrades that we're going to do on aeronautical. It now has a complete new electrical system on the boat with charging capabilities to support this new battery bank that we have. So Very happy to have that done. It's been sitting on the shelf for a long time. I meant to do it myself a few different times, and every time I'd start the project, I'd get interrupted somehow. And I just decided that while I had him here doing some other work, I was going to have him do that as well while I'm installing the windlass. He did replace all of the fuel lines, so Aeronautical now has all new fuel lines for both the diesel and the genset. So that's a nice one to have checked off the list. That is something that I had been meaning to do for a while now. They were new fuel lines, new alternator, new serpentine kit, new voltage regulator, and we're going to go finish the windlass install right now. So we got everything cleaned up. The holes are all clean. I drilled these and kind of chamfered the top of them a little. They look clean. So I just got to tape up the bottom of it so we can fill them with epoxy. And fill all of these and all of that. These two obviously are going to require some glass mat. It's very thick, so I'll probably use some glass mat along with some silica filler to make the epoxy a little thicker. Very convenient that this boat has such a large chain locker. I am sitting all the way down in here. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds, and 210 pounds. And I'm sitting down inside this chain locker with 350 feet of chain, so it's surprisingly large. Time to mix up some epoxy. Best thing you can do for yourself when you're mixing epoxy is make sure you got all the right stuff. Mixing sticks, measuring cup. I'm going to use this syringe to fill the bolt holes. Alright, so the other trick to this is that before you put the catalyst in, I'm going to put the filler in. I'm using a silica filler. And honestly, if you're going to be doing this, you really ought to be wearing a face mask, because this stuff is very lightweight. It gets airborne very easily. You really don't want to be breathing this stuff. I'm going to be uber careful. Start with that. But the idea is that as long as you don't have the catalyst in there, and again, it's really bad for you, so I really ought to be wearing a mask. But anyway, you can mix this stuff all you want, as long as you don't put the catalyst in. It's not going to harden on you. So theoretically, you could mix this stuff up and store it on a shelf. When you're mixing this, again, it gets airborne very easily, so just kind of fold it in. You don't want to go stirring it too aggressively. I'm looking for something a little less than like a peanut butter. And that's looking pretty good. Now that it's all mixed in, I can kind of stir it up. So now that we have it all mixed up and I've got the consistency I want, now I can put in the catalyst. Before I do that, I'm going to put some gloves on. Alright, so now we can put the catalyst in and start mixing and go up and fill some holes. And the catalyst is quite a bit thinner than the resin, so then mix it really well. You really want to mix it for 2 or 3 minutes before you try and pour it in.
I guess it's...
I'm going to start with the bolt holes. I'm going to use the syringe to do that. So let's start with this one. I'm just going to go around this mat that I put in here. Again, not that any of this has to be structural, because it doesn't, but it's going to have this hole very well protected. Cleanup. Should be good. Alright, day 2 on this project. These are basically dry. Came out very nicely. Just a little bit of sanding around the edges, and as you probably know, that silica that I used is going to make it pretty tough to sand. But we've got a good solid structural fill. Use a finer grit sandpaper, but that's for a finish. I'm not really concerned about that. So. I think that placement's going to work perfect. Really happy with that. Plenty of room for the bolt holes. The chain counter sensor will go right here, right there. I'm going to drill a hole in the gypsy, and there's a magnet I've got to epoxy in. That sensor will go right there. So I think we're doing really well here. All I have to do now is clean out the hole for the hawser. It's already cut, it just needs to be cleaned out a little bit. Line that with some 4300 or some other, maybe some epoxy just to seal the core. And we'll mount the pickup for the chun counter right about here. And then we can start wiring it all up, but I think we're done for the day. I'm happy.
So that's the sensor for the chain counter, and I put the magnet in the gypsy right here. Specs are all right, so the distance from the sensor to the magnet are within about halfway within limits, so we're good there. So I have made a complete mess of my boat, but we're getting close. So we are ready to mount this thing, and I just have to clean the deck a little bit with some acetone I've got in my hand, and then we can put some Sika down the bolt holes, line the hauser hole and the wire hole, then bolt it up. I think we're good. Breaking the sensor that I just put on. Okay. See if I can do this before I break my kneecaps. Oh, that's perfect. Wow. That is perfect. So the problem is, these fender washers are so large in diameter that this back hole back here where the hauser is, it kind of goes into the hauser just a little bit. Okay, let's go get our hands cleaned up, come back, tighten all those down, and we're done. I'm going to start wiring. So far I'm happy. This is what day 4 or 5 of getting this install done on the Windlass. This is the power leads going to the old Windlass. You can see I've removed the old control box. It was just dangling over here, it wasn't even mounted. The cables coming from the battery are right here, and they are going to be adequate for the new Windlass. I was a little concerned about that because these are European cables, European style cables that are original to the boat, and they don't have AWG labels on them. So I had to do a little research on the cable size, but it turns out these are 50 millimeter squared cables, which is the equivalent of a 1/0, and that's exactly what the Lofrans manual calls for with the run that we have, which is only about 13 feet one way. And by the way, when you're doing this, you got to make sure that you're doing two-way. You've got to run it, you've got to consider both lengths of the cable, positive out to the Windlass and negative back. So when you add in the 4 feet or so from here up to the Windlass motor, we're looking at a total of less than 40 feet for this run, which according to the manual says that the 1/0 cable ought to be more than adequate for it, and so that's what we're going to go with, and it'll keep me from having to rerun cable all the way back to the battery from here. Just so you know where we are, we're in the forward head, which is in front of my V-berth, or in front of the Pullman berth in the front of my boat. I mounted this block right here. That's where the new control box is going to go. They did have it just screwed into this glass here, and that's why it pulled out. With this, I put some bolts behind it. I embedded some stainless nut plates behind it, So this will just bolt right to that plate right there. Make it a little easier to get to and better organized. These go through a conduit up to the deck. What I'm going to do is go up and I'm going to put a terminal on the end of the other side of this cable, and then I'm going to bolt it to the new cable that I'm going to run, because this is 16 millimeter squared cable, which is way too small. I'm going to use number 4 AWG cable going from here up to the motor. The reason for that is that's about the biggest cable that I can put on here that will go through the case on the windlass up to the terminals. I don't know why Lofrans decided to design it that way, but I can't get a bigger cable in that case up to the terminals. So I'm just going to go from the control box right here up to the windlass motor with number 4 AWG cable. I think it's going to be adequate. I think it'll be just fine. So anyway, let's get to work up on deck. We'll get some cables bolted up to these and we'll pull them through the conduit, and then we'll start wiring everything. I need to take this off so I can show you. But the cables come through the base right down here into the bottom of the back of the case here. And they come up, and the terminals, there's 3 terminals on top of the motor right about there. And that's why I'm using number 4, because you can't get anything bigger than that inside here. I'll show you that here in a minute, but what we're doing right now is down here in my chain locker, I've got this conduit for the wiring, and I clipped it off so I can straighten it out, and we're going to just we're going to put a couple of terminals on here, and then I'm going to pull the cable down into the head. Might as well enjoy the sunshine while I'm doing this. Put that terminal on one of those wires and bolt it to these 3 wires, and I'm going to pull the whole thing down through that conduit, I hope. Hopefully it all fits. That's the theory. We'll see how it goes. So I got all 3 of them bolted to the existing wire. I'll push them through just a little bit. Now we're going to go downstairs and see if we can't pull it down. I might need a hand with this. Oh, I can't pull it. That's no bueno. Let's see what we got upstairs. I think we might be close, but I'll pull it back a little bit. I can push it. Inch at a time. I think I might have it. Oh, that feels good. Let's go check it out. Of course, this would be a whole lot easier with some help, but... Oh, look at that. Oh, I got it. I actually have it. I'm gonna have to go upstairs and push it down more, but I can feel the all 3 cables right here. Okay, this is working. Would have been a lot easier with help, but screw it, I got it by myself. Oh, that's so good. Oh yeah, I think we're good. And look at that. It's gonna wrap around the case, going right there. Wow, I'm psyched. Let's go see. Next to the term single-handed on a sailboat, an entirely different experience. Look at that. Ah, perfect. Oh, I couldn't be happier. I'm gonna put some heat shrink on there and bolt them up. We're gonna be good. Gotta take a lunch break, but we're in good shape. I'll show you here in a minute. I wasn't able to film it because the quarters were a little tight up there, but I managed to get the cables all run through, including the auxiliary or accessory cable for the chain counter sensor. That one was a little tricky. I couldn't get it down the conduit with the power lines for the windlass motor, so I went to plan B, cut a little port opening in the side of the conduit down close to the bottom, and I was able to fish it in and all the way through the bulkhead into the forward head where the switch is going to be. So I'm happy about that. I'll show you here in a minute. I'm sorry I didn't get it videoed while I was doing it, but just not a lot of room in there to work and film at the same time. But I'll show you what we did, and I'm real happy with it. I think it's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Hey, it's Christmas time. If you're looking for a Christmas present for the sailor in your life, I got an idea for you. Check this out.
Very cool. I can't wait. This is going to be a lot of fun to try out. I can't wait to get this on our board, get out to the island and try it. I think it's going to be useful because it'll allow us to get around the anchorage on the stand-up paddleboard. And I just want to try it. It looks like fun. All right, here's the progress so far. This is the accessory cable for the chain counter sensor. We've got all the heat shrink put on to the power lines for the motor. So all we have to do is start wiring everything up. I'm going to start up at the motor, and then we'll start wiring this up down here. So let's go get that done. The problem that we're running into is that for whatever reason they didn't label these. In the manual, I'm pretty sure that's going to be ground. One of those is M1, goes to M1, one goes to M2. And this is the up and down side of the switch. So all I can really do is try. I'm going to start just by going with what the diagram shows, and the right side going to M2, left side going to M1, and that going to ground. And we'll see what happens, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be ground. And we'll just try it. Alright, got all the heat shrink on, and we just got to bolt them up. And hopefully get the case back on this motor. Lofrans did not give you a lot of room to work here, but we'll see what we can do. Okay. How are you? I don't know. I'll let you know in a couple hours. So far, so good.
All right.
Oh, what a job.
Yeah. Aren't they all like that?
Yes.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a big deal. And yeah.
Oh, I knew it was going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
But it's going to be nice to have this one done.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've fought it since I bought the boat, so it's going to be nice to have it done.
Excellent.
But,
Good.
all right. Let's see if the case will fit. It's going to take a little finagling, but I think it'll work. Wow. That is tight. Tight. It got dark on me, but and I couldn't film any of the wiring because there's just no room. But I'll go down and show you what I've done. But I'm going to test it. Go ahead and hit. It works. Oh, I'm so happy. That was a lot of work. I'm going to have to go show you the wiring because there's just no room to work in these Benetons where I had to wire everything. And I'm still going to have to clean it up. It looks like a mess in there, but hey, everything's working. The remote's working. The buttons on the pedestal work. I am thrilled. So we will finish mounting those boxes, clean up the wiring, and then this part of the project is done. We still need to replace the circuit breaker, and then I need to go up on deck. Once it's all finished, we're gonna have to pull all the chain out of the boat because I'm pretty sure it's gonna be tangled up in the locker up there. We're gonna pull all of that chain out, make sure it's not tangled, put the anchor back on the chain, and then put the anchor back on the boat. And while we're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and polish the bow roller and the anchor just to make it look pretty. But once all that's done, this project will be complete. We can move on to other things.
Look at that.
Alright, I'm gonna have to go down and help that anchor off the dock. Look at that. Done. Couldn't be more happy.